Hello, washed up ball players and young adults from a haunted carnival in Burbank, California. This is the Film versus Film podcast. I am your host, Quinn Boys. I am a 13-year-old trapped in a 31-year-old's body. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host. This is the last time I have to say this, the 3-time back-to-back Film versus Film, still technically reigning champion. He hit over 400 home runs in the major leagues before washing out as a drunk. Leonard Smith Jr. What's up, Leonard?
Just because I like to have a little bit of the drink doesn't mean I'm a drunk. Okay?
Are you drunk right now?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm depressed. Like you said, the run is officially over after this episode. And I'll say, this season, it's upped, I became complacent and here we are. But I'm excited about this episode. We have a very fun person for this episode. Best friend, Courtney Nunes. What's up, Courtney?
Hello. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Hello. Thank you for being on, Courtney. I'm just curious about that intro. Are you both of our best friend? Who's best friend?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Still confused.
Cool. Great.
Courtney, writer and best friend, Nunes. I'm going to be honest. Courtney was my friend first. We've done improv together. So from, I'm trying to think of it, 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know. Since we were both
5, 6, 7 years.
5, 6, 7 years, somewhere in that range. And we've got a great topic today. Courtney, thank you for being here. I'm wondering how to. I feel like we've hinted at it, but this is such a. I'll start this way. Last week, which was really last month, because we do not believe in the month of June here at the Film versus Film podcast. Apparently,
I don't know if you want to say that, but
because it was Pride Month.
Yeah, that has nothing. There's no motive to that.
Well, no one thought that before you said that.
We were busy celebrating
Pride.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now that that's totally clear, last episode we did one of our famous. We do different prompts on this show, as anyone who's listened to it knows. And last episode we had one of our weirdest ones where we did the best Regina Hall movie, and it really went off the rails as soon as we hit record, I think. So to follow it up with a best insert actor or actress here movie is bold of us, Leonard. I don't know if you feel like this is us getting back on the horse. Listen, it was no fault of Regina Hall's. I just think we didn't live up to the
horse has left the barn and he's running. She's running. The horse is running away because I think people are going to be upset with our choices. I could be wrong.
You said that to me, and I'm like, no, I have faith in our choices. But okay, so we are doing. Courtney, you chose the prompt. Who's the actor that we're talking about today? We've picked one film each of his movies. It's a deep bench. We're talking about
Sir Thomas Hanks.
Yep, you almost had it. He is not a British knight. I suppose you could call him Sir just to be kind.
I do.
But we are talking about Tom Hanks. He also doesn't go by Thomas.
The man
as far
that
as
made COVID real, Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Don't bump his wife, Tom Hanks.
Reba Wilson will not. Is it? What is it? What is it? What's it? Reba McEntire.
It's Rita Wilson. No, it's Reba McEntire. No, you had it. It's Reba McEntire. It's Reba Wilson. Famous country singer.
I just love that video though, where she's getting bumped, and he's like, "Don't bump my fucking wife," and like the black dude who like clearly bumped her is like, "Yeah, man, don't bump her." Like,
he's like, "Yeah, we're all trying to figure out who bumped your wife."
Yeah, we're all trying to figure out the guy who did this.
Courtney, have you've seen that video, right?
I have, and I would never bump Reba. I think that's so rude.
I would bump Reba because I don't know who's going to come to her aid, but I wouldn't bump Rita because now I'm worried about catching these hands from Tom Hanks.
Hey, all I know is
America's dad.
Yeah, man, I'm not fucking with Rita, especially if Tom's around, because he can grab a baseball bat. He can swing that thing, so.
I do. Yeah, he's taking real batting practice in that movie, it looked like.
If you're a small child, he will throw a mitt at you. That's a fact.
No hesitation. I love that part. That was probably my favorite part. Anyways, we can go ahead and get into these choices. So when you hear Tom Hanks and you gave us this prompt, Courtney, what did you think we were going to get? What movies were you expecting us to choose?
I was expecting neither of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
I think it's fun because there's so many to choose from in terms of Tom Hanks avenues. I was probably thinking, I don't know, Forrest Gump,
Right.
or
The obvious.
I don't know, Catch Me If You Can, or I don't know,
Interesting.
Toy Story 3. No, I don't know. I actually didn't have any specifics in mind. I just knew that Polar Express, it just really runs the gamut. And so I was like, I didn't really know which two you guys would choose.
Okay.
I think we can all agree Forrest Gump is probably, and I'm not talking about best because clearly neither Leonard or I picked it. I don't know if you would have picked it if this prompt was given to you, Courtney, but I do think that is his most closely associated role. Like people think Tom Hanks, they think Forrest Gump.
If this prompt was given to you, Courtney, what would you have chosen?
Oh man, I don't know. There's so many options and I haven't seen them all. But I think it would.
Well, you wouldn't pick a movie you haven't seen. I would take it probably. We can rule out the ones you haven't seen. Are you a big Castaway? We didn't mention Castaway. That's a big one.
Oh, Castaway. You know, I haven't seen Castaway.
We also haven't mentioned Saving Private Ryan.
I haven't seen that. You know what's so funny is there's so many movies in the world that I haven't seen. But the two you guys picked, I'd already seen.
Oh wow. That's funny. Then that's good because we're all in the same kind of field avenue. So I think it kind of makes sense. I was thinking that you were going to say that Tom Hanks has so many movies that it's very easy to miss a lot of the movies in his catalog. And looking through his movies, there's a decent amount I haven't seen. And I've seen Forrest Gump. I've seen Saving Private Ryan. I thought of Catch Me If You Can, but I've never seen what is it? I've never seen Polar Express. I've never seen Philadelphia. I've never seen Philadelphia, which he won an Academy Award for. So
what about Sully Sullenberger?
I haven't seen Sully. No, I haven't seen Sully either. Yeah.
Captain Phillips.
I haven't seen
There's
Captain
a period
Phillips
in his career where he was just playing captains of ships or planes or something.
Vessels. He was
real life captains. Also, we didn't talk about his two Nora Ephron movies with Meg Ryan. Actually, three, but I think the two that people remember: Sleepless in Seattle and
You've Got Mail. Yeah, I haven't seen
ones.
Either one of those.
Oh, I could tell you which of those would win. You've Got Mail.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Throw it on the next list.
I've never seen it, so I'm sure Quinn has seen it.
I have. I've seen both of those movies. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the movies we haven't chosen, so let's talk about the movies we did choose.
That makes sense.
This might be the moment in the episode where you go, ugh, or where Chris Edens goes, what the fuck? I'm gonna go ahead and give you my choice. My choice. Oh shit! Hold on, Quinn. You go first. Quinn,
did you forget your choice? I'll go first.
No, I haven't pulled up like this information and stuff on it.
Okay, fair enough. My choice was definitely not the first choice, but we're not going with the most obvious choice. Or if we were, that's not always that fun. And you don't want to lose on the most obvious choice either. Forrest Gump is not my favorite Tom Hanks movie. You know what one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies is? A League of Their Own. This is a 1992 sports comedy. It's about baseball. So if you know me, then you know that that's right up my alley. It's about women's baseball, which that curveball, you know, I usually watch a lot of MLB, but it's about
the way you said curveball.
Curveball.
You sounded like a minor league broadcaster with that one.
It's about World War II. I'm trying to think. It's not based on a true story exactly because they're playing fictionalized characters, but the characters are based on real people and it's based on real events such as the war. So this is about the women's baseball league. I forget what it's like, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which formed in, I believe, 1943 and ran for 10 or 11 seasons and was a baseball league that for the first time where all the men were at war, women were playing baseball. And there were, it was a smaller league, but they were drawing attention across the country. There was a lot of kind of doubt if women could or should be playing sports. And this movie kind of takes that time and makes it a comedy. It is really, and I'm going to just cut Leonard's argument off at the pass here, or at least acknowledge a deficiency perhaps in my own movie. It's a two-hander. This is a movie that is, I would say, Gina Davis is the star of this movie, but Tom Hanks is incredible in this movie.
He's an
Tom
integral.
Hanks, Gina Davis and her sister, played by Lori Petty. They are two young women who are enlisted in tryouts, really because Gina Davis is such a natural. She plays Dottie, and she's such a talented catcher that she gets scouted. She goes to Chicago. She makes a team. They're on one of these inaugural women's baseball league teams, and their manager is fall down drunk Jimmy Dugan, played by Tom Hanks, a player with a promising major league career who washed out because he couldn't stop drinking. And it's about a lot of things, but it's really about the season and the women kind of coming together and making a real baseball team. There's a lot of people that think it's a gimmick, so they're playing in skirts and they're not, thought to be serious ball players, and Tom Hanks doesn't think of them as serious ball players. But by movie's end, they've kind of saved him, at least temporarily, from his drunken stupor, and he has come to respect the game and form an attachment with the girls and manage them. So that's the story. I mean, really, it's just a super funny movie about a sport that I love. And I remember watching it as a kid, and my mom rented it for us. And I remember her just being like, Joe, you'll like this. You'll like that. And like, Tom Hanks is so funny in this movie. And we're going to get into your pick, Leonard. I'm about to stop talking, but I will say, like, my favorite Tom Hanks is funny Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks does two things. He's serious and he's funny, and he does them both really well. And I love a lot of Tom Hanks serious movies, but Tom Hanks has killer comedic timing, and it's on full display in my pick. Leonard?
Yeah, it truly is. I feel like I want to talk about your movie, but before we talk about your movie, I'll just go ahead and mine doesn't have nearly as much depth as yours. It won't take as long as to explain.
I think the title explains it.
Yeah, my movie is a one-word title. It is the 1988 film Big, where Tom Hanks is playing Josh Baskin, a 13-year-old boy who wants none other than to be an adult, a full-grown man. And he's at this creepy carnival where Zoltar, he makes a wish with this fucking, what is he, a gypsy mind reader, psychic? I don't know what he is. Genie? I don't know what he is.
It's a possessed arcade machine. Yeah.
It's a possessed arcade machine, and that it comes true. And he wakes up as a grown-ass man in his tidy whities, and his mother believes that there's an intruder in her home. And that's how we start this movie. And we learn that it's very easy for a white man to get a job. In the 80s, you don't even need credentials. You can make things up. He gets a job working at a toy factory, toy company, working for a toy company, makes his way up through the ranks. Throughout, he loses his innocence. He loses his childlike essence. He fucks. And he realizes that being an adult isn't cracked up to everything that he thought it was. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to be a boy again. I'm going to stop traumatizing my mother, and I'm going to be a boy again. And he becomes a boy again.
Yep.
Very, very
that's
heavy
correct.
Tom Hanks movie. We're watching Tom Hanks play a 13-year-old boy. Talk about
Is it
comedic
heavy?
timing. I mean heavy as
Tom
in like,
Hanks heavy. I thought you meant like this shit's heavy.
Unlike
Okay.
your film where you don't see Tom Hanks for the first 30 minutes of the movie.
31 minutes, yeah.
You knew I had timed it. Anyway.
I know your tricks.
But yeah, it's a fun movie. It's pretty happy-go-lucky. There's a lot of like ways they have to stop you from like trying to disconnect the cognitive dissonance. It's weird, but it's fun. It's cool.
One of my favorite things about movies like this is they don't get tied up in the magic. Like there's his Zoltar machine. It doesn't work. He kicks it. It works. It grants his wish. And then the carnival leaves town and it's like, oh, I guess I got to wait 6 weeks. And then he finds it again. But there's not a whole thing where they're like, we need to meet the wizard that cursed this thing 1,000 years ago. Like,
and
it's
what's funny? Because, I saw this movie as a kid. I saw it a few times. I may have seen I feel like I watched A League of Their Own, maybe on TV or Comedy Central or something, but I don't really remember. But I have an issue with like, okay, the logistics and stuff like that
don't make sense.
Exactly. I don't even think about that when I watch this movie. So it didn't even cross my mind as I was watching it. So it's interesting that you just said that and I didn't even think about it while I was watching.
You did have that issue with A League of Their Own. Leonard was watching it, Courtney, and he was texting me and he goes, so the women are just allowed to play baseball? And I said, yeah, this is based on real events. And he said, who's taking care of the children? And I said, well, other people are so that kind of tripped you up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Right,
I couldn't get through it. I couldn't. Courtney, how did you feel about these picks when we gave them to you? Your thoughts on both these movies?
I was really excited because these are both movies that I saw for the first time within the last year. I had never seen either of
Whoa.
them. I know. I told you don't watch movies.
But why in
Um,
the last year? Were you doing like a Hanks
It was
quarantine deep
COVID. It was
dive?
time to watch movies.
they both were just movies I hadn't seen that I was like, I've been meaning to see this for 30 years. So I have to. Yeah. And so that was a fun coincidence.
Were they suggested to you by people, or did you do this on your own accord? Or
My own accord.
okay,
Yeah.
Wow. And then we made you watch them again, or you've seen them recently enough. So, but we were making you think about that. That's terrific timing.
Yeah, I rewatched one of them again. The other one I didn't rewatch again. And
Interesting.
yeah, huh?
Don't tell us which.
I know.
'Cause
I was
feel-
about to ask. And
I
was
don't
like,
want to know which you did and didn't rewatch because I feel it may be revealing. But sorry, keep going about.
Oh
how
yeah,
you feel.
I won't say that. But I mean, I think these are great movies. I'll talk more about them individually when you guys are doing that. But
Okay.
I was
Well,
so intrigued by the fact that these were the two Tom Hanks. What made you guys choose these two movies? And was it because you'd already talked about other Tom Hanks movies and other?
Have we talked? That's a good question, Leonard. Have we talked
Well,
about a
you
Tom
know-
Hanks movie before?
we. Oh man, I thought my laptop was shut. I don't think we have
don't
done
know that we
a
have.
Tom Hanks movie.
We
And
did Best Pixar, and we didn't even pick Toy Story. It was a gentleman's agreement, so I don't even think that would count.
I feel like, at the time I was in when it was time to record this, I wasn't really trying to watch anything heavy handed. I wasn't trying to I just wasn't in the mood for that.
Yeah.
So, Big, I knew I really loved as a kid, and I kind of wanted to rewatch it. And it's funny, me and Quinn both were thinking about choosing Big.
Yep.
And it was just like all the other choices, it just seems like it could be a wash, like between Catch Me If You Can and Forrest Gump. So I don't know. It was just none of those really stuck out to me. So I was like, I'll just go with the fun choice, and I'm going to pick Big.
Well, let's come back to these movies because I feel like in explaining why I picked mine, other than that I loved it and I'd seen it before, and it is one of my favorite Tom Hanks performances. Put it that way. I don't know if this is his best movie. Probably I would have to argue it's not, but it is my favorite, maybe arguably, performance of his. At least that was the one that came to my mind that I wanted to rewatch and talk about. But let's go down. We talked about some more obvious Tom Hanks picks, and I feel like it's like a trap game or something, right, Leonard? Like where it seems like a slam dunk, but I feel like there's good reasons to not pick some of the ones that we didn't. For example, Forrest Gump is the most popular film. I feel like Forrest Gump has become polarizing. I don't hate this movie, but I have talked to people that are like, I fucking hate Forrest Gump. It's too blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I feel like Forrest Gump, for some people, they're like, not about it. Maybe it's become too memed. It's too in the culture. What happened to your legs, Lieutenant Dan? Bubba Gump Shrimp, whatever. Or maybe it's just a little bit like, I don't know if that like Tom Hanks simple character is my favorite performance that he gives, though he won an Academy Award. And then also like some of the more like Catch Me If You Can or Saving Private Ryan, those to me are Spielberg movies, which I know it's like they're both, but I think Saving Private Ryan is a Spielberg
war
movie
film
before.
too. It's also a war film, I feel like.
And beyond that, before he was like Tom Hanks, the Academy Award winning respected actor, I feel like he did have a run of really successful. Some of them I like more than others. I never really for a second considered Turner and Hooch, but that's a popular, like, young, fun comedian Tom Hanks movie. Said I never considered it.
I didn't even know he was in Turner and Hooch.
He's the man. he's the one who's not the dog. Turner and Hooch.
Oh, wow.
It's a buddy cop movie where the other cop is a dog. Are you familiar with this?
What?
You don't know this movie?
I've heard Turner and Hooch, and I think I might remember that it's like but it's Tom Hanks and a dog as a cop.
I mean, it's a dog that I think was found at a crime scene. I have seen it. Courtney, have you seen Turner and Hooch?
No, never. I've never even heard of it.
You've never heard of Turner and Hooch?
No.
Are you both fucking with me? What are you talking
No, I'm
about?
not.
No.
I don't know
To
if
not
he
have
is.
seen it. To not have seen it is fine. You've never. I just feel like that's like all right, whatever. Turner and Hooch. Tom Hanks is a cop. Someone dies at the docks. I don't remember the movie that well, and the dog is like left because his owner was killed or something. But he's sort of like a junkyard dog kind of thing. He's like a big mutt, and so Tom Hanks like effectively partners with the dog and they solve a murder. Meanwhile, the dog is like ruining his apartment and ruining his life. And yeah, it's very like it's basically
the plot
Okay.
of Scooby-Doo.
basically Lethal Weapon.
I said Scooby-Doo.
It's Scooby-Doo meets Lethal Weapon. I think we found it. Yeah, well, I don't know that it's necessarily worth your time. They did remake it for Disney Plus recently with Drake and Josh's Josh Peck in the Tom Hanks role, and that's
You
the
almost
last I
just
heard
say
about
Drake and Bell.
it. I did. Thank you for not letting that go unnoticed.
You got it.
No, so it brings me back to answering your question, Courtney. Is I just feel like funny Tom Hanks, the best Tom Hanks. I also love anytime he hosts SNL. Like I just feel like he's got really strong comedic timing that honestly in the last like 20 years of his career he has not put on in movies. I don't recall like the last Tom Hanks comedy that I really liked.
Have you seen I want nothing to do with this Elvis movie. I'm not gonna watch it.
Oh god,
I don't ever want to watch it, but if I did somehow come to watch it,
now I know your punishment's gonna be.
Fuck. It'll only because, and my roommate basically brought this to my attention because I haven't watched the trailer. I haven't really seen anything about it, and I didn't know Tom Hanks was in it. And then I saw the trailer, and the character that Tom Hanks plays is fucking ridiculous.
The Colonel.
Yeah, he's like some like German like old man, like heavy old man. It's pretty fucking comical. I watched the trailer finally for the first time like yesterday, and I was like, okay, I could see why you want to watch this movie now. Solely because of Tom. Like that's the only reason why he wants to watch it. And I was like, oh fuck.
So that made you want to watch it more.
I mean, yeah, there was nothing about it that made me want to watch it, so it did make me want to watch it more for sure.
I was talking to a friend of mine who was like a fan of Elvis, and I was like, "Oh, you excited about the new movie?" And he goes, "I've seen it," and I was like, "Oh," having heard that it's just been getting terrible reviews, and so I didn't want to trash it because he likes Elvis or whatever. And I was like, "Is it good?" Like I asked with like it's a leading question, and he said, "See it really stoned," and he said, "No." See it really drunk. I was like, so whatever your drug of choice is, just make sure you're numbing your senses before you walk into this movie. It was the recommendation. So I have not seen it, but I do. Tom Hanks used to just gain weight for his roles. I'll bring us back to our picks. For A League of Their Own, he gained weight throughout that movie because he was worried when Penny Marshall cast him. Penny Marshall, the director of both of our films. This may as well be the best Penny Marshall movie. These would have been our picks probably.
That's the thing I wrote down.
That Penny Marshall directed both of these.
Well, yeah, because you said that you did whatever the director you said you did earlier. Or no, you said that would just be a Steven Spielberg.
Oh yes, yeah.
This could easily be a Penny Marshall
easily
versus Penny Marshall. And did you guys do it on purpose?
It was a twofer.
No,
we did
but
not.
I think we just renamed this episode the best Tom Hanks / Penny Marshall movie.
Yeah.
/ John Lovett's movie. John Lovett's also makes an appearance in both of these movies.
Very funny.
No, but there's two phases of Tom Hanks, and I don't mean to be rude to anyone who ages, but there's kind of young and skinny Tom Hanks, and then there's older. I don't think he's fat, but he's sort of, he's more like his hairline's a little bit further. He's like older Tom Hanks. There's younger Tom Hanks and there's older Tom Hanks, and I feel like A League of Their Own he's still younger Tom Hanks, but he's on the way out. Like, and he's Penny Marshall told him to gain weight to really look more like a washed up drunk ball player, and so he like got fatter over the course of the movie. So I was looking in like different scenes, you can see he looks a little bit better, a little bit worse.
Those movies are only less than 5 years apart from each other, and the road he's
so
down to old is
yeah,
it's a matter of it becoming. It became the 90s, and then he's like, I'm old now. And you're like, you're like almost 40, dude, but you're old.
Oh man. Well, let's talk a little bit more in depth about a League of Their Own, since we're talking about him and how he played. This is a great Gina Davis film. She's doing a thing. We have her little sister Kit. It's basically the story of
great sister movie.
It's a great sister movie of the younger sibling who doesn't feel appreciated. The older sibling is the prettier, more athletic, the more wanted, the more talented person. And, that's a issue throughout the entire film. let's talk about John Lovitz. John Lovitz was hilarious in his like little quick 5 minutes that he's in this movie.
John Lovitz is in this
asshole.
movie for 15 minutes. He says 40 of the meanest things I've ever, and then he walks off into the cornfields like fucking Ray Liotta at the end.
They're always getting attached to me. They're always getting attached. I'm gonna take a shower, see my wife, and hit the road.
And somehow 30 years later, at the end of the movie, he's aged like 7 years. How is he not collapsed on the floor? Like his character was already so old.
Yeah, he's an old man with a cigar, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. You should have just killed him. He did not need to be alive. There's no way he's alive. There's no way he's alive.
This is there's like a great, like John Lovitz was kind of like, this was the heyday of John Lovitz. Forget Tom Hanks. This was prime Lovitz territory. And he was on SNL and he was like a big TV star and had bit parts in movies. And that he's just cooking. I feel like they just like let him.
Oh yeah, they just let him say whatever.
Like, some of it seems improv or whatever. And one of my favorite characters in A League of Their Own, other than Tom Hanks, is Marla Hooch, who is the person that they pick up other than Gina Davis and her sister when they're on their way to the tryouts. Who is, and this is what the movie tells us.
This is her dad on the mouth.
Because her dad, she's so ugly, according to the movie, that like when John Lovitz sees her, he goes like, oh, like he does like one of those old timey like, I'm shot in a movie that's not that broad. Like he just does. And then there's the other bit later on where it's like I love fake newsreel footage in any movie where it's like, while the boys are at war, the women are on the field, and they do all the thing. It's like, look at her, she slides into third, but she still has time to apply her makeup. And they're doing close-ups of all the pretty ladies in the league, and then they do Marla Hooch, and the camera, it's like an extreme wide angle,
so wide.
It refuses to zoom up.
I just hated
Can't
the fact
she hit?
Well, they were like, look at her. It was like, well, she was a good hitter. You could have been like, you could have been showing her doing so, but it was the joke. But it was hilarious.
That's not what it was about, Leonard.
That's
not what this is about. It's about giving our boys at home a distraction.
But I love that she just like gets married and leaves the team. that was
a little weird. Yeah,
I loved it.
She needed a man to look after her, apparently.
She was a great singer.
Yeah, she was a great singer. She out there, she got a little bit of that liquor in her, and she let loose. Also, we have Kit little sister's Kit's little Kit. What's her name's little sister? Who's Gina?
She's Dottie, but we can call her Gina
Dottie's
Davis
little
too.
sister. We have another Lori Petty sighting. This
Lori
season.
Petty.
She was in Free Willy in an earlier episode this season. I referred to her as Tank Girl in that episode. Neither one of you knew who I was talking about. Courtney, Correct. Do you know about Tank Girl?
No.
Okay.
Not even gonna come up with a bit. Just no.
Okay, cool. She it was probably like her. It was like her movie where it was like her. She was the leading role in the movie. So it's like a post-apocalyptic.
What the movie is called?
It's called Tank Girl. Yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic, like it's from a comic series, and it's just like her being a badass and blowing shit up and shit like that. So
yeah, I have seen Tall Girl, but I haven't seen.
Oh, there we go. I personally haven't seen Tall Girl.
Just to round out the cast, there's two other very funny, very charismatic supporting players in this movie. Played by to fill out the roster, played by Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell, a young Rosie O'Donnell. I don't know. I mean, I know she was a stand-up comic and stuff, but this was before her show. And like, what's that?
I said before her talk show.
Before her talk show, yeah. Like, so I feel like I don't it's know only if like this is like a break for her, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
Well, she did this movie, and then she did Harriet the Spy. So she's done some film avenues, and. And then she got her talk show on whatever channel it was on at 3:00. Watched it.
She's like one of the more authentic, and maybe that's just like her Brooklyn accent. And apparently she was like supposed to be in this movie less, but Penny Marshall, who's also from New York, really liked her authenticity. So she just gets a lot of parts, but she also has a lot of funny lines. Like I believe her as a baseball player, perhaps more so than Madonna. But Madonna is also very funny, just playing.
Madonna's my favorite part of this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Basically like Madonna in the early 90s, like sort of sex crazed and sex positive. And yeah, Courtney, you talked about this. Also, actually, specifically, I have a question for you. As an older sister, Have you been the Gina Davis before, or is that like,
That is such a flattering question.
You're welcome.
You didn't ask if I've been the Kit, whatever her last name is.
Well, we all have our roles in the higher. I'm an older brother.
Kit Keller.
No, I definitely can relate to being really protective of your younger sibling. If that's what
and has your sibling been like, fuck off? Like that scene when we first meet them and like she's like giving Kit all this advice as she's walking to the plate and she goes, don't swing at the high ones. That bat is too heavy for you. Don't and her sister's like, leave me alone.
It's hard when you're protective of someone to let them to know that they need to just make their own mistakes and you have to just let them. But I also do credit a lot of, sorry, my cat's crawling the keyboard. I do credit a lot of their relationship to the fact that those parents, I don't think they parented those girls. All they did was sit by that radio and listen to the programs on the radio.
Yeah, while the kids work and make them money at the dairy plant.
And let their child get married. So I think they were left to fend for themselves for most of their lives. Sign of the times, though.
What was that line where they're introduced to John Lovitz and they're milking the cows and he's just like, doesn't that hurt them? He's got such a weird never seen cows milk before.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to.
He had so many great one-liners in that movie. I mean, I felt like we talked, but I didn't really speak on Rosie O'Donnell, but yeah, Rosie O'Donnell kind of stole the show. She was just super funny the entire time. I really enjoyed her.
I love her being just like, when it's those two dorks that are like trying to buy her drinks and stuff. She's like, come on.
They were obsessed with her.
Yeah.
You know who I didn't like though? Was that fucking chubby little kid. You know what?
I can't talk about Stillwell.
Goddamn Stillwell. And his mom. Fuck his mom and him. Fuck both of them.
Well, she clearly
the whole bus of people were he was about to kill 25 people covering the bus driver's eyes.
That was he's got like chocolate on his mouth and he's literally his mom, played by Biddy Scram, which is maybe the best, it's the most iconic scene in the movie, is when she makes an error at third base or whatever position she's playing, and she comes in and Tom Hanks chews her out, as a manager does. He's bought in a little bit at this point. He's managing the team. The first time we meet him, he just takes like a minute and 30-second piss in the latrine in the girls' locker room and then stumbles out and he just sleeps through the game. But now he's kind of bought in and he's giving her a hard time and she starts crying. And I truly think this is one of Tom Hanks' my favorite performances, because that whole bit where he's already been angry at her. What makes it so funny is that he's like saying it like he's not still angry. This is the famous "there's no crying in baseball" scene. Everyone has heard that, even if you're not familiar, that it's from this movie. There's no crying in baseball. And he says it because what makes it Hanksian is because he's like incredulous. He's like, you can't do that. There's no crying in baseball. Like, he's more confused by getting that response from her than he is still angry at her. And it pays off later in that scene where she makes another error and he's so angry that he's just shaking and he's trying not to do the same. But no crying in baseball is maybe the best scene in the film. I love that moment. And she's just like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just a great comedic setup.
I would love to see that same sort of attitude applied to Stillwell. Is that kid?
Yeah.
She wasn't the problem. He was the problem. I mean, she was also the problem because she wasn't mothering him.
She didn't. Her husband needed to look at the want ads.
Yeah, that was infuriating. That was infuriating as well. I will say this about that the iconic no crying in baseball scene. I love how like Dugan brings up his past trauma, and he was like, my parents came down from Michigan and they saw me play and he called me this and I didn't get to cry then, so you don't get to cry now. And it's like, no, bro, that's just some shit you need to deal with, my guy.
Well, you're saying Stillwell deserved to be chewed out, no crying in baseball. He does throw a mitt directly at his face.
Directly in his face.
He whips it.
It was my favorite part of the movie. It was by far. There's no question about it.
Another great Hanks moment is when he hits him. He doesn't have a moment of like, ooh, I hit him harder than I meant to. He goes, ha ha ha, I got him. Everybody's cheering him.
And then former Miss Georgia also throws the ball at Stillwell. Or no, she throws it at that guy in the audience who's...
Yeah, it was like, oh.
Yeah, okay.
Women's baseball.
Yeah.
Courtney, did you play softball growing up?
No.
Did you play sports growing up? I did play. I played baseball. It was essentially softball.
Right.
Same difference.
No, I wasn't into sports. My sister played softball. My dad used to be her assistant coach. So I went to a lot of kids softball games.
Okay. Did she ever cry?
Probably.
Well, that's
there
not allowed.
is crying in softball.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
I've never played softball or baseball. You didn't ask Quinn, but
I knew.
I'm just not trying to have people throw balls
But he has cried a lot.
Oh, I've cried a lot. I cried during Top Gun earlier today. I might have cried. Did I cry? I might have cried during Big. Did I cry during the League? I might have cried during the League of Their Own too. You know,
I did. I cried during a League of Their Own, and
I
got a little emotional during Big, but it was only because of every now and again, Big is a fun, we can transition into it. It's a fun, lighthearted, child as adult, fish out of water movie. And then every 40 minutes, they need to check in with the woman having the worst experience of her goddamn life. Just
for like
check
months.
In with mom.
For like 2 months of her life. It's the worst 2 months of her life.
This is the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent. And then it's like stuck in between scenes of Tom Hanks trampolining and getting a promotion. And then it's just like about being like, well, my son is being sold on the sex market. Like, I don't know what this poor woman is thinking. But
okay, so let's talk about this movie. Let's talk about Big. You know, he turns into a whole man and wakes up in his fucking house. He has to sneak out. The beginning, they did a pretty good job of being like, all right, what is this little boy? He doesn't know what to do. Oh, look at that cute little kitty back there. And it's funny, like the despair and like him just wanting to convince his mother and his best friend that he is who he says he is just like, that's gotta suck. Like,
she doesn't buy it.
She does not buy it, as she should not.
No one should buy it.
This movie is economical because I was thinking about that. We've already mentioned that they don't do the whole thing. It's like, we're not going to get into the magic of it all. It's a magic box. And if you can't believe that, then don't watch our movie. And I like that they don't try to ground it that much because it's ridiculous. But they also, what I really like is that Tom Hanks, he looks in the mirror, he goes, oh shit, I am an adult man. This must have been from that wish I made last night. But he doesn't like have that thing, which I feel like so many movies like that do, like a Freaky Friday type thing where they keep bumping into people and being like, no, I'm Lindsay Lohan. And people are like, but you look like Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like, he's like, okay, I'm going to tell my mom I made you this thing. This is the name of my middle, you know what I mean? He's like trying to give her the facts and she's too crazed to understand, which makes sense. But then he hits up his buddy, who's a kid and is more likely to believe this. And
who does not believe him at first, but he starts screaming.
He still has a plan of attack, which I appreciate. The Chimmy Chimmy Cocoa Puffs rap gets him.
Which was great. That was a very fun scene. It was like, you know, they show it at the beginning when they're riding bikes, and it's like, okay, this is a song that only these two know. So then the kid obviously knows that it's him. He wasn't there with him when he made the wish, so he wouldn't know.
He did. He made the wish, by the way, Leonard, I'm going to take a slight issue with you. He does not wish to be an adult. Mm-hmm. He wishes to be big because he's standing next to his crush in line for the roller coaster and has the moment that every young boy fears, which is he's not tall enough to ride the ride. And the kid's like, sorry, buddy. So he goes over to Zoltar and he's like, I wish I was big, which could have gone a couple different ways.
What if he just woke up with like a real big dick?
Thank you for making explicit what I was inferring.
He did. Maybe he did. I mean, Susan Peck thought so, you know, so.
Yeah, but when she finds out he's a 13-year-old, she also says that explains it, which I don't know if that is supposed to be the fact that we'll get into that whole
okay, let's get into but let's, so, you know, he now is a 13-year-old boy in a grown man's body. His best friend is there to help them. Where is he going to be homeless? What is he going to do? You know, he scrounges up the little bit of cash that he has.
Might as well make it in the big city, the hardest city to make it in.
Yeah, exactly. He gets this little, you know, I guess like daily, weekly motel room thing. And, you know, you kind of feel for him that first night. He's like, oh, my mom, you know, and I was like, grow the fuck up. You're 13. Okay. That's not that. Get out of here. Okay. Shut up. No, I'm joking. And you kind of feel for him. And then
he does play with toys a bit too much for a 13-year-old. Were you playing with toys this much as 13-year-olds, guys? I don't know if
I personally don't think I feel like 11, 12 is like that is when you stop playing with the toys very, very so heavy.
Yeah.
I remember
you're probably a little too old to be eating miniature corn like corn on the cob. So I'm just, you know, he might be a little developmentally challenged.
Did we ever see his dad again after the
I assume the dad left.
One time. One issue I did have with this movie, and I like really couldn't disconnect. Like I couldn't. It was if your child's best friend and next door neighbor was apparently abducted and is missing. Why the fuck is your child just out and about and just gone? Like he was hanging at his house, he was at his job, they were going to baseball games. There is no way that child would have been able to, like, the whole neighborhood would have been in a craze about their children going missing.
Of course. And also, yeah, it's like one kid's parents are letting him play with toys, another one's kid's parents are letting him roam the streets. Like,
what is happening?
There's a kidnapper on the loose, Mom and Dad. I'm going to be spending most of my evenings in New York from now on. Yeah, probably not going to go over.
Who got you that $100 Yankees jacket? Oh, no, just a friend. Just a friend.
Just an older male friend. Why?
So he has to get an ID, and their plan is to try to figure out where this arcade machine is. And I think they find it, and it's not plugged. Like, do they find it early? I can't remember.
Yeah, pretty early. Like the New York Public Office of Records or some such something finds the carnival and is like, it's going to be back in town in 6 weeks. Or rather, they find the info in 6 weeks, and then they're able to go to it. But yeah.
So then he has to get a job, and we have the hilarious scene of them trying to fill out an application and waiting for a job, and they think he brings his son to the interview, and some woman comes up and interrupts him during the interview, and he's just like, all right, you're hired. You know, and it's just
he went to GW.
He went to GW, yeah.
For school, he puts George Washington. They called it George Washington. He goes, oh, GW, did you pledge? Every morning.
That's really good.
Oh, Tom was great, man. Tom was hilarious. And you know, he gets a job working at a toy factory, and surprise, surprise, he knows toys. Cause, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this.
Please.
Did everyone just think that he was autistic? Is that?
This was 1988. I'm not trying to be, obviously there were.
Did they think he had like just a little touch
mild
of the
forms
burgers?
of autism? But I don't know that word was really. I don't think people had that level of understanding. I think they just thought it was.
Yes, but back then people would be like, they may not have had the terminology. Exactly. They may not have had the correct terminology, but they would have been like, oh, you know, he's touched, or he's.
It sounds like this movie would have made a lot more sense if he started out as like a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old.
Yeah. 13 was too old.
Then he can't have sex.
Exactly. That's 100%. Then he can't have sex.
I can't. We haven't even talked about his relationship. We haven't even talked about.
Courtney, you tell us about the relationship.
How do you feel about it?
Set the scene. Set the mood.
I think the ending of this movie is pervy as hell.
Yeah, it's really pervy.
That's how I would sum it up, because I don't think she has the right grounded reaction when she finds out that he was actually 13. She seems a little bit like, oh, this won't work out. This isn't good, but
don't lose my number.
She says, yeah, see you, call me in 10 years. Okay, hold on though.
The wrong thing.
Hold on though. She went to this man's house. Okay, she saw. How did no one maybe think that he was a pedophile? You know, I don't know. It was a little creepy. He's always around a kid.
I'm kind of glad the movie didn't make those jokes, but it's in there. Yeah.
I don't think FAO Schwartz would allow a 37-year-old man in alone.
He's 32. All right, be easy on Tom Hanks.
All I'm saying is, she saw that apartment. She
slept in his bunk bed
and was expecting sex, and then it didn't happen. She was expecting
he's not in the wrong. He is not in the wrong.
He's not what?
He's not in the wrong here.
He's not in the wrong. No. But that's what I'm saying. What was going through her mind? Also,
actually, I think they both get canceled because he's misrepresenting himself on a fundamental biological level. So I feel like she's going to jail.
She saw his goddamn apartment. Okay, she saw how he lived.
If you saw that apartment, you wouldn't think, oh, the person I'm with is magically 13, though. You'd just be like, oh, an eccentric. He works at a toy company.
No, I'm worried.
I know.
He brings his work home with him.
I'm worried about a grown-up bunk. I'm worried about a grown-up bunk bed. I'm worried about a.
And it wasn't even a grown-up bunk bed. It was still a child's bunk bed.
And he
in
doesn't
a high-rise corner fucking.
He doesn't have a bunkmate. He's not a twin brother. He's not at summer camp.
That's a great line too, though, when he asks her if she wants to come up to play, and she thinks what adults think when you say, "Do you want to come up?" And then she goes, "Well, sure." And then he says, "I get to be on top." Which doesn't pay off until you see him hop on that top bunk bed.
It's great. I when they are on the trampoline, I was just thinking like what was going through her head. She's like, oh, okay, he's got like some weird fetish and he wants like he's gonna pull his dick out on this trampoline. I have to like jump up and down, and that's what gets him turned on. And I was just like, I just wanted to know what was going through her head. Yes, exactly. What was going through her head that entire time? Because it made no sense to me, and it was wild that she was still going to fuck him after all of that.
I'm interested in your opinion on this, Courtney, because there's an interesting like shading to her character that I don't think the movie needs and feels like mean, or maybe not mean, but like unnecessary. Which is that it is implied by I forget the guy's name, but Tom Hanks's rival in the company,
John Hurd,
played by John Hurd. I forget the character
Paul.
name, but
his name is Paul.
So Paul is who. Oh gosh, what's Elizabeth Perkins's character's name? I'm remembering. Susan. Paul is who Susan is seeing when Tom Hanks starts at the company. Right. They have breakfast in their apartment together, so they're maybe not living together, but she's there a lot. They're in a relationship. And when she leaves him because she goes home with Tom Hanks, despite never breaking up with Paul, that's minor. I don't care about that. But like she then tells him like it's over, and he's like, oh, okay, so you're just moving on because you've been sleeping essentially with every exec at this company. Like she is fucking her way to the top. Like that's what's implied. And then she goes, no, it's different this time. And I'm like, is that what they're trying to say? Like she's just initially when she goes back to his apartment, so like I'm just trying to get with the guy who has the best ideas, that she's putting up with it, and then somewhere along the way she falls in love. Like I'm not sure when that clicks.
I feel like that's what it's supposed to be, but that just is dumb. So,
yeah, this is not a three-dimensional character. Josh gets to be two characters. She gets to be a fraction of one woman, and she isn't fully thought out.
Yeah, they did her dirty.
They did her dirty. They probably, I don't think that they put much thought into this character. If it did, it was written by men. Sorry, Penny. I think it was just like her whole entire plotline revolved around one man or another man or a little boy. Like that was it.
Yeah. This movie was written by two people. Two people got a screenwriting credit, and one of them was Anne Spielberg, sister of Steven. Isn't that wow? And the other was Gary Ross, a man. So I'm not disputing your point. I'm just saying, since you brought it up, I saw that name and I looked it up, and it's like Anne Spielberg was Steven Spielberg's sister. He almost directed it.
I think A League of Their Own was also co-written by two different people.
It was.
Yeah. What a fun coinkydink.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how he has moved up to vice president of like
he just
marketing.
Gets promoted. The most famous scene in the movie is he bumps into his boss, played by Robert Loggia, at FAO Schwartz. And sorry, Leonard, but that's how he gets promoted.
Yeah. He just sees him. He thinks he's in the field. He's really he's really dedicated to his job. Yeah. And then we have the very cute, iconic piano scene.
Yeah, dancing piano or walking piano.
And it was great. It was a really fun time. He, you see, what was his name? Robert
Loggia.
Loggia McMillan. You see, his inner child come out, and he's having fun, and he's remembering what it's like to be a kid again, and the social, I love how dependent this movie is. Like Tom Hanks's success, the fact that he doesn't starve to death on the street is because he happens to apply for and get promoted at the company that just so happens to have a boss who's looking for people's inner child. Like you're so fucking lucky, bro. Like you're so lucky, because you'd be homeless real quick. But you're just lucky you're a 32-year-old white man in 1988, and
you just thought of as eccentric.
This movie's so wild, but it's still fun. It's fun. It's a good time. Obviously, the third act, it gets a little weird, and you're just like, wait, what's happening here? But
well, she follows him when he finally finds the Zoltar machine. He tells her, "Hey, I'm 13." She's like, "Fuck you." He's like, "Fair." And then he leaves a meeting and he goes to find the Zoltar machine and he makes his wish and she chases after him. Presumably because she's starting to believe, but let's give her some more credit and say like she's like, I don't know what's up, but I just want to see that he's okay. And then like when he's already made it, she does seem like, oh damn. It's like, you believe he's 13 now, leave, go far away from here. Like you're already in trouble. You don't need to add,
I still can't say she's in trouble. I still wouldn't think of her as like a pedophile. She technically had sex with a 32-year-old man. It's body.
Body, right.
Body. It was just like, she was like, oh, you are married or you have another family. And it's like, you saw his apartment. You think this man has a family? He was married. Like, can you just imagine like, all right, I finally don't have that wife anymore. Now I can have a soda machine and bunk beds and fucking
I do think actually that's a lot of I do think many people would do that, Leonard. You get the soda machine that he's rigged it so you don't have to put in a quarter. That's pretty sweet.
Guys, I have something controversial to say.
Okay.
Please.
I think that the reaction that Josh's mom had was more than it should have been. I just think it would be harder to believe what he told Susan at the end compared to what he told his mom at the beginning. A man coming into your house and saying, I'm your son, is way more believable than a grown man saying, you just had sex with a 13-year-old boy. That is so crazy. And she doesn't have the real reaction that his mom gave. Their reactions aren't.
The only thing I would say about the reaction with the mom is he went the wrong way about it. He like burst into her home. So it's like an intruder breaking into some man and
wearing her son's underwear.
That was weird too. Showing breaking into your house and then yelling at you about this. She's not really truly listening or taking that in.
He's not exactly in his right state of mind, though. I feel like, he could have, we can Monday morning quarterback this, but he's dealing with some stuff.
Oh, no, I'm not saying he for sure could have went a better way about it, but I'm talking about just the reaction to what happened.
Yeah, right. And I think that's a justified reaction to someone jumping into your house. But I think Susan should have a similarly big reaction because she hasn't been on the journey this whole movie with us. All she did was have a relationship with this weird man.
I just love at the end.
They were dating for like weeks. Yeah. Like they had been together for a little while there. And man, he showed up in that tux. Man, when he showed up in that tux, y'all can't tell me nobody was like, he might be a little touched. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
I hear you.
Liberace's tuxedo. Yes.
It's a little bit strange that they're all kind of okay with and like not acknowledging what we're seeing in his behavior.
Yeah. Like John Hurt's the only one, kind of, and he's the bad guy.
Yeah, he's the toy company villain.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a great villain. I can't.
He doesn't even do anything that villainous though. Like
he doesn't.
The movie is, and blessedly, because I feel like you start to think of these things if the movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes, which nobody wants. It's like an hour 45. And they don't even have the thing where like John Hurt like plans a big thing and he's going to embarrass him in front of the company. You know what I mean? He's just like, I'm just a dick, but I guess you're better than me. Like, I don't know. His big revenge is he just asks him in his presentation.
Yeah.
But what is it?
How does it work?
I don't get it. That's right. Yeah. Like,
I don't get it.
That's the most you got, man.
I think this movie really had to pick its battles in terms of what path it was going to take, because there could be so many things we could delve into and that could have happened, but got to stick with Tom the whole time.
They had sex more than once.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, they were having sex all the time. And
once on the top bunk, once on the bottom bunk.
Because remember, he had sex, and when he had sex, he was a different person.
That's the best scene in the movie. He just strolls into the office the next day. He's fully an adult now. He's like, I like black coffee, and I got to get my work in before 5.
And so, we should probably get into these criteria, but I just want to say a couple of things. I did love when his best friend was like, you fucking snap the fuck out of it. Like he had to fucking snap on him and be like, what are you talking about? And also though, I just got to go back to the whole Susan thing. It was so weird the moment her true realization that he was 13 years old was during the presentation.
Yeah, I didn't exactly get that.
Wait, someone would say 1795 for it. Oh my god! I was like, wait, what?
I don't understand how that triggered it in her either. Yeah, it's a weird.
The pricing of a product.
She says, "I think the exact
what kid is gonna pay."
What kid's gonna pay $17.95? And then she says, "I think a kid would." And then she like looks off into the middle distance and she's like, "I have to go."
It's disgusting. You know it. I know it.
So
we all know it.
It's so ridiculous.
Well, the ending scene, he's walking away from the car. He's still in his suit from the office, and she like looks down to like probably see if she has a handle of vodka in her glove compartment or something because her life is ruined. And she looks down and then she looks back up at him crossing the street to go into his childhood home because he's made the wish. And now he's a boy again in a full man suit that's baggy as all hell. And he turns around and he looks at her and she smiles like it's this nice moment. Like, I was your surrogate mother this time and now you're going back to your family or something. Or like, oh, magic's real. Like, Courtney, when you're saying she does not have the proper reaction, that's the moment where I would have sped away 120 miles an hour from that part. Because forget the fact that you had sex with this kid. He's like wanted for having, or he's not wanted. He's sought after for being kidnapped. So you're like driving him home. She's steps in it all the way around in this
Absolutely.
movie.
His DNA is all inside of her car.
Okay.
And
okay. I thought you were saying something else.
I was going to say something else, but I'll stop.
It's true though. There's a lot of room for sequels in terms of lawsuits with this movie, and a lot of room for like sort of maybe some legal procedural.
Hey.
Yep.
I will say this.
Too big.
I will say this.
Bigger.
Too big.
When they were in the car,
bigger.
When they were in the car and he was still a fully grown man and she was dropping him off, he went in for a kiss and she kissed him on the forehead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's not going to hold up in court.
I'm just saying once she knew who he was.
Not this court.
Once she knew he was 13.
Hey, how about this? She said, talk to me in 10 years. So she wants to date a 22-year-old, 23-year-old when she's in her 40s?
Yeah. Groomer. She's a groomer. I'm sorry.
She already started. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's grooming.
Yeah, I think they're well past grooming.
It's all right, dude. Let's get into these talking points. The first one is it pop culture? Yeah, first one is pop. It's been a while.
It's pop culture.
I feel like, we talked about the biggest moments. They both have
playing the piano in FAO Schwartz.
And they're iconic.
No crying in baseball.
Yeah, no crying in baseball. I don't know which one has more of a hold as far as pop culture goes.
I feel like I'll throw this in, I'm not sure where we're going to net out on it, but I will say like the concept, I don't think they can't have been the first. There must be some story, maybe the first movie, but probably not, of a character, like a body swap movie kind of thing.
No, there was Freaky Friday.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's different. They're swapping but it's the same. Part of that movie is the same, different. Which is a kid pretending to be an adult. But I will say, if we're looking for like, if you take the blueprints of this movie, and I didn't realize this because when I first saw this movie, I'm not sure that the next movie I'm about to mention had come out. But this movie is essentially Elf. Elf is the same movie as this, and Will Ferrell's not a kid in an adult's body through magic. He just is a big kid, and like the same kind of like not understanding things and being in New York and having a child best friend kind of thing. Like it's the same. And then more recently, I don't expect everyone on this podcast will.
We've all seen 17 again.
17 again. Well, 17 again and Shazam, that superhero movie with like, that's about a kid who becomes an adult superhero and he goes into a 7-Eleven and tries to buy beer. Like I just feel like that the whether or not Big invented these tropes, I feel like a lot of in the modern day, that's kind of the like source of a lot of these movies that have come since.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of those movies and they're so predictable, yet I'll watch them all.
Shazam, I saw Shazam in theaters. I remember enjoying myself and having a good time. I don't remember really anything about it.
It's very big. Like there's an interesting thing about this, which I'm not sure when we'd have another point to bring up. And I know we can't leave poor Susan alone, but it maybe kind of glances on again. So Penny Marshall directed both of these movies. Really interesting process. So the kid who plays, I think his name is David Moscow. and who plays young Tom Hanks. He plays young Josh. She had him do the adult Josh scenes, and then Tom Hanks would watch it and then do it so that he would know what it was like childlike. And Tom Hanks was nominated for an Academy Award for this performance. So I feel like if he'd had one, he should have cut that thing in half and given one, or like a little one, a to scale that's little one directing. To David Moscow. Yeah, he was doing those scenes because he saw how a kid would do them. I assume not the scene where he touches Elizabeth Perkins' boobs, but maybe.
You know the answer.
You know the answer.
The answer is yes.
No, I think he did a really good job at embodying a little kid's actions. It's very believable.
Mm-hmm. And there's two types of Tom Hanks performances. I feel like, well, we talked about serious and comedic, but there's also like innocent, like sweet kind of like, that's more the Forrest Gump mold. And then there's like ornery kind of prickish, which is what you get for A League of Their Own, which going back into all the best parts of Tom Hanks in this movie are when he's being mean, I think. I mean, he has moments of pathos, but like the scene where he just walks in and you see the girls talking and one of them is like, my husband, he's in the Pacific. I just brought his baseball card. And Tom Hanks goes, he pisses in the sink for like, apparently another directorial. Penny Marshall is underrated. She had a bucket with a hose. And so off screen, what you're hearing, maybe they dubbed it in later, but Tom Hanks was peeing. He was reacting to the sound of urine. So he was holding that because once Penny Marshall stopped, then he knew he was done. But she kept spraying the thing, so that's why it's such a like long scene, and he's kind of like throwing his head back.
He's fully
moaning. Yeah, he's just like doing what she's setting him up for.
I really appreciate that scene because I was like, I feel you, brother. I know what that's.
And then he walks out. We've forgotten about the baseball card, but the woman runs up to him and is like, my husband, he loves it. And then he just takes it, rips it into 4 pieces, and throws it behind him, which is perhaps the meanest thing Tom Hanks has ever done on film. I felt that. I was like, that is fucked up, Jimmy Dugan.
And him in doing so, he killed her husband, basically.
No, there was that
he did kill her husband. You're not going to need that car back. He's not going to care about it.
Don't you remember that mean thing he did in his movie where he pushed that astronaut out of that kid's window? Toy Story 1. That was
my gosh. It's a toy, Courtney. It doesn't have feelings.
I don't know. Have y'all seen Road to Perdition?
He's
he's like an assassin, like a killer in that.
Not as mean as all those people had it coming. Not as mean as tearing up that woman's baseball card.
What's that movie where Tom Hanks is on a motorcycle on the cover?
Larry Crown.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
What?
But I know it from the poster.
All right.
So pop culture, whoever wins, these are both.
How well do these hold up? You know what? If you are a long-time listener of this podcast, you're gonna understand what I'm about to talk about. And I just got to go ahead and I got to commend A League of Their Own. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Because
I wasn't sure how you'd fall on this scene, but I knew where you were coming.
This black woman. There are no black women in this league. They're in the Midwest. It's the 1940s. We see a black woman grab the baseball and she throws the hell out of that baseball. Okay. Yep. And we were just like a
30-second scene.
She's got an arm.
She does.
They're gonna put her on a team. She's gonna. Nope, because it's 1943. They not putting any goddamn black people on a team, and I appreciated that. The writers and the directors and the producers of A League of Their Own don't fucking whitewash history. Okay, I'm glad they did it, and I appreciate it, and I thought that held up pretty well.
Better than Sandlot, where the black kid is in the pool with them. Leonard called that one out. Never thought about Sandlot that way. Could never look at it the same way again.
They would have never let those.
Have you seen the Sandlot, Courtney?
I haven't. Thank you for asking.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Well, there's a scene. It will completely take you out of the movie because there's no way that black kid is swimming in the pool with those white children.
It's like the 50s and they're in a public pool and Leonard's like, that kid wouldn't be in the pool. And I was like, I never thought about that. Shame on me.
This movie, League of Their Own, did feel very honest to the time, or at least I bought it. It seemed very real.
I thought so as well.
They comment on that scene actually, and they said they were happy that they like kept it in because yes, that league, the women are composites of real players, but they are not actual historical figures. And Jimmy Dugan did not exist, but the league did, and the league was segregated, and it wasn't segregated. In fact, well, I guess it was, but there was no female. There was no female Negro leagues. Like they you got nothing. So that scene was meant to nod to the fact that they did not have that. And so one of the filmmakers or maybe the writer was like, I'm glad we put it in because a lot of people come up to us and so similar, I think, to what you said, Leonard, which wasn't thank you for acknowledging. Well, yeah, I guess thank you for acknowledging like the racism of the day, but also like it's like they could have like that woman can throw, but there is no opportunity for her.
Well,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
also if they hadn't had that scene, we would have just been like, it's like something going unspoken, which is like the actual reality of like, it's not just all these women who are like breaking barriers. Like you're forgetting the entire population that is very much just neglected completely. And yeah, I thought it was a very
I was like, these women have these opportunities, but she's a woman just like them, but she does not have these opportunities.
They're not even
based on the color of her skin. Yeah,
not even in the same, not even in the field, and not even Harvey Field.
That scene. This is a segue, but that scene where it holds up, I think. In fact, it's hilarious. It's more evidence to how funny Tom Hanks is, but where they lose the bus driver because Stillwell puts his hands in front of his eyes. And then the older woman, she's not old, but she's older. She's like their caretaker. I forget her name. She goes up to try to wake up Tom Hanks in a drunken stupor. She gets right in his face and she goes, "Mr. Dugan." And he goes, "What's up, baby?" And he just like wakes up in a daze and starts making out with her. And then sees who he's making out with and has such a like over the top
visceral
reaction. The likes he like spits and he like things get. But
he
when he sits
his mouth out with liquor and spits it onto the bus, and she sits back down. He says something like, "He goes, I loved your work in The Wizard of Oz."
He says, "By the way, I loved you in Wizard of Oz." And then he starts driving, which made me laugh so hard because it's so mean. This woman who you just kissed, she wasn't trying to kiss you. Tom Hanks playing a dick is funny.
They were very mean to women, and that was very real. This man threw a goddamn handful of dirt in that woman's face, and I was like, men would do this. Men would do this, and the men probably still do this. So I was like, this is terrible. But
what's that scene where the two kids come up to him with the baseball and he signs it for them and then he hands it back and they have the kid read it and it's like, avoid the clap. Jimmy Dugan. They're running off like not understanding what the
it's great.
Good times. I think these movies hold up pretty well. And I mean, other than the black hole of sexual politics that isn't big, I feel
and also the fact that like no one is questioning this man's psyche, or I just feel like, not that they should, but I'm just saying in the 80s people were still
everyone was on cocaine in the 80s in New York back then. Nobody was thinking about it.
Okay, I guess
there are more black people in A League of Their Own than there are in Big, which takes place in modern day, which is at the time.
Can I weigh in on this one?
Yes. Of course you can.
I saw both of these movies as an adult for the first time, so I don't have like the kind of like kid experience of watching them. And I think that Big was so pervy, as I've said. Like it just hits you the wrong way at the end, and it just hits you the wrong way at the beginning, and it's fun, but I don't know in terms of holding up that this one necessarily holds up.
I don't think
in terms of being entertaining, sure, and fun.
There was a suggestion by one of the, I forget who, she didn't get the role, but someone who was up for the role of, it might have been Deborah Winger, of the female love interest, whose name I've already forgotten again. But Susan. She recommended, probably because she was trying to make her own part bigger, that they swap it, they gender swap it. Can you imagine how much worse that movie would be? Like even back then they were probably like, oh, we can't do this with a guy having sex with a 13-year-old girl in the body of a 30-year-old. Like
it's more playful to have it be a little boy who's just like kind of,
which is a wrong double standard, but I do understand like when they're recommending it, they're just like, no, there's no other time for this, Leonard. I don't know if you had this research, but I just wanted to run through you guys a couple names of people who were up for or considered for the role and how different the movie would have been just for Big, because it's so obviously a specific performance. This is all what I found on the People's Internet Movie Database. So some of them make more sense than others. Like the most obvious one was Robin Williams was considered. This feels like a Robin Williams. It would have been a different movie, but obviously you can see this, right? Like,
oh God, that would have been great.
Robin Williams, John Travolta, which like 80s John Travolta, who was kind of like Lucifer, like pre-Pulp
Fiction. That would have been awful. It would have been even more pervy.
Well, certainly it would have held up worse. But
we wouldn't be talking about it today. I don't think we would. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, Travolta was considered but rejected out of him because he was considered at the time box office poison. So this was like but I think like Look Who's Talking kind of era John Travolta. I could see it. Okay. Other ones, some of these get fun. Bill Murray. We could see a version of this movie with Bill Murray, right?
Mhm.
sure.
Michael Keaton, same thing, kind of like, he was a comedian, thought of in the 80s before he was Batman. I can see it. Mr. Mom. Okay, now they get weird.
Mr. Mom, that's fun. I like the movie.
John Goodman. I didn't.
Okay.
Well, that's an interesting one.
Oh.
Gary Busey was considered.
Oh,
Gary
boy.
Busey. Harrison Ford turned
So he just
down.
becomes a.
Can you imagine Harrison Ford playing a 13-year-old child, like the gaiety of a 13-year-old child in a Harrison Ford performance? Would not have worked.
That would have been ridiculous.
And so here's the most shocking one, I think. This script had been written like years before. It was kind of languishing. Nobody had a take on it. Nobody knew what to do, wanted to do it. Before they went to Hanks, who was obviously the right choice, someone who was interested in it and wanted it to make it as Josh, but it only didn't do it because they wouldn't need his salary, was Robert De Niro as Josh.
Wow. I'd watch
Very
that.
different movie with Robert. You'd watch it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd watch it out of curiosity. I don't know that it would be good.
I can't even contemplate that though. That would be
hilarious.
Interesting. Especially after
like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, all of the Robert De Niro.
It's like right before Goodfellas. It's funny too, like all these names that you're saying, I'm thinking about like the movies that came out around the time. Like Robin Williams was obviously filming Dead Poet Society when this was coming out because that
he makes the most sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to go the serious route.
Well, he did Jack like almost a decade later, which is the story of a boy who ages rapidly, which is a terrible movie, but he kind of got to do it there. So I feel like that's why it's very easy for me to see what that movie would have been like.
And I'm thinking of like Harrison Ford was in
makes no sense.
he kind of was like a comedic part. There was a comedic aspect to his role in Working Girl, which came out I think in like 88, 89. So
yes, that's right. But
that just wouldn't have worked though.
But it's like Harrison Ford just always seems like I can't imagine Harrison Ford in his 20s. He just seems like a guy who was always 32 at the youngest. Like I don't know how he would have affected. Courtney, do you have any? I mean, and that's most of the.
I was just thinking about how the actress who plays Susan sort of expanded her own personal career growth as well, because after this movie, she went on to do Miracle on 34th Street with a young Mara Wilson, and she plays a great mom. Shouting it out to Susan one more time.
That's true.
All right. I have a question for you, Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Was Regina Hall in either one of these movies?
I don't. Unless she was, there's only really one role for a black person in my movie. Unless she was the one throwing the ball, which I don't think is the.
She was
not in this movie. Was she in Big?
No.
There were no black
if she
people
was,
in Big.
yeah. If she was though, I feel like she would have been a funny Susan. I feel like she would have called it out, and she'd be like, "I guess I'm still like you."
Yeah. If Regina Hall plays Susan, that role is actually a lot. No shade to Elizabeth, but that role is a lot. Like I could see that. And also her freak out when she realizes she's had sex with a child would have been funny.
Honestly, they should remake this movie
with Kevin Hart.
And it'd be called Big or Bigger, and it would just be funny because then he'd be like, he would want to be big, but he'd become a small adult. Would that not be hilarious? And then have him and Regina Hall together are just like it's just like comedy gold. It's so
that's actually someone should steal this idea. If Kevin Hart, if you have like a young kid who gets picked on, he can't ride the roller coaster, he wants to be big, but he just gets aged up, but he's the whole time, it's a running joke how upset he is that he's still being called like a shrimp. Like
he's still the same little. He's still the same height. Like he doesn't Oh, genius. That would be great.
That is
genius.
Yeah. I literally
you just call it Bigger or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you give it like a cutesy reboot name.
Or Big?
Question mark. That's it. That's it.
Let's get Anne Spielberg on the horn.
If Regina Hall was going to be anybody in a league of their own,
if we're going to do what the filmmakers had the grace not to do and just pretend that this wasn't a segregated league, I feel like she would have been funny in the Madonna role. But I mean, the Madonna role is classic Madonna.
I honestly feel like she would be kind of funny in the Roseanne role. I think she's in the Roseanne role. She'd just be funny with those one-liners.
Roseanne's in the sequel.
You're getting your white people mixed up again.
Oh, I said Roseanne. Rosie O'Donnell. The zingers, like
Yeah.
Regina Hall's very good.
Yeah,
at
that's
this.
true.
Like, I feel like she would have been in the Rosie O'Donnell role. That would have been great.
It would
I also
make sense because she's like stunning, and the whole thing about Rosie is she's like kind of is like, oh, that's what I can get because
she's like an amalgamation of Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell's character. You just she becomes both of those.
I can see her. I can see her in the leading role if I'm being honest.
Sure.
That too. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, they're making a League of Their Own for Amazon Prime, and I don't know that much about it. It's going to be a series. Darcy Carden is in it, okay. I think. I should look it up before I start talking about it. But
Abby Jacobson is a co-writer for it, and it's coming out in August of this year, which is next month.
Very timely. I look forward to that. I wonder who they get to play Hanks.
Remake, though. It's going to be a.
Oh, it's about the actual league.
No, it's a same sort of idea, but with brand new characters. It's going to be focusing on people who were like Black women at the time and lesbian, like the things that the movie basically didn't do.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they could have talked about, but they did not.
Right, that's right.
But it was 1992, so and they were trying to make money.
There's two Rosie moments before we move on to our stats category that I noticed, and one is like the whole last. If you're not a baseball fan, I don't think it matters, but I am, so I guess I can't say for sure. But the last World Series game is really well told. Like I feel like the tension, the music, Hans Zimmer did the score. It's good. Like and it's like based in character. And there's that great moment where they've traded Kit to the other team, and now she gave up the lead, and you see her and she's crying on the bench because she's always the kid sister and she's never coming through. And she's up at the plate. She has a chance to win the game or at least tie it for her team. And Gina Davis, the catcher, goes up to the pitcher. And from that first moment in the movie, she's like,
she runs
high fastballs, just high fastballs. Yeah. She can't lay off them, can't hit them. Like it's a great, like she's not giving her any quarter. Mm-hmm. So that's a great moment. And then Kit comes through and she has her moment. It's a wonderful ending.
Wait, I got a quick question.
Okay.
Did she drop the ball on purpose or no?
No, I don't think so. I think she was trying to get her out. I think it's worse if she drops it on purpose.
What was that, Courtney? You think?
I thought that at first too, that she dropped it on purpose and let her sister win. But based on their interactions together in the locker room, I think she was just like, it's what you do in the game. It's not personal. And she won fair and square.
I think she did it on purpose, but because it didn't mean as much to her as it did to her sister. So, and she was never going to tell her sister that. It's not like
it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, sorry.
What really matters is that her sister felt like she had that victory that she wanted.
Exactly. And she tells her, she takes it away. So that's why I think she may have done it.
I think I agree with you that it's ambiguous, Leonard. I think you can definitely read it that way. I don't read it that way, but I think all the evidence is there either way. But what I was going to say about Rosie is in that scene, so all this is happening. The sister struggles, but they keep cutting to Rosie at third base. She's playing and she's like, one more, we got it. And she's so authentic because Penny Marshall had all the girls, and apparently Madonna was the only one that was like not up to snuff. So sometimes they, but like they all did. And Gina Davis, because she joined late, it was supposed to be someone else, so she missed the baseball boot camp. But she cast people that like were good at baseball. Lori Petty was very good at baseball, who played Kit. And Rosie just seems so out that like I'm like, yeah, I know, I want her on my team. Like the person who's just like pumping up the pitchers, like, we got it, one more, come on, we got this. I was like, well, they're cutting to her in the most important part of this movie just to add authenticity and emotion. Anyway,
she's so watchable in this. I love.
She was really so good. She was, she probably was she was one of my favorite parts for sure.
My favorite part was absolutely Madonna. I think she was hilarious.
Teaching the woman who can't read how to read.
Oh, that was sweet.
That scene made me well up when you didn't realize why she wasn't leaving first. That was one of them. Yeah, it was very sad because she didn't have the. I get it. She didn't have the not the courage. She didn't have the strength. She didn't want to admit that she couldn't read. So someone came up and helped her. And that little moment of humanity was so nice that I was like, that's very sweet. Yeah.
And then Madonna's teaching her how to read like smut novels.
Smut novels.
He opens up the kimono. Like, wait, what? What
is throbbing? And also it feels like an ad lib. So credit to Madonna. Maybe it's not. But when she reads like nipple and then Madonna turns the page quick and she goes, it gets really good right here. Like she's like, I need you to, let's keep going. Okay.
All right, let's get into these stats.
Let's get into stats. These were successful movies, Leonard.
I am looking at these numbers and I am kind of surprised.
Do you want to do yours first?
Yeah. So, Big, the 1988 film directed by Penny Marshall. The budget was $18 million, and the box office return was $151.7 million, $152 million.
I believe she was the first. I might be wrong, but maybe it was like a distinction of like comedy or whatever. But considering how few women were allowed to direct anything, I think she was the first woman to have a movie make $100 million.
Wow.
I could be off
That's
on that,
dope.
but I read something like that. Yeah, which is crazy.
I'm just like very surprised that this movie did this well in the eight. I don't know. I guess I guess there weren't that many great movies to choose from. I don't know. I'm very surprised.
People love
by this
Hanks.
box set. Yeah. And this is early. This is like,
Yeah.
this is the I think this is the start of him being like a bona fide movie star. And these ratings are 7.3 on IMDb. This is insane. Let me click on this. Let me make sure that's right. The Rotten Tomatoes is 97%.
Wow.
Tomato.
And the 3% is just Courtney bringing up all the sexual issues.
97% on the tomato meter.
That's right.
That is insane.
82% from Google users. It's usually the other way around. But yeah, those are the stats. I'm very shocked by that 97%. Is that like payola? Was this like the the studios paying these? I don't know. That's insane.
It's a movie that totally succeeds on Tom Hanks's performance. I just feel like people are just like, hey, he plays a kid. It's funny. Like that's, you're not seeing that movie if you don't want to see Tom Hanks play a big kid.
Especially
right?
this is the first of its kind, and it hasn't been done before. It's it's a thing. This kind of genre was.
Yeah, it was new. Fresh. Yeah, it was new. I'm just a little surprised, but yeah. How about yours, Quinn?
So League of Their Own was made in 1992. So we're thinking $1992. It was made for $40 million.
Good,
which is a lot. And it made $132 million. So another hit.
Return.
Definite hit. Not as the margin is worse than Big, but certainly no one's sad about that.
The cast is so much larger in your film too.
Yeah. And you got to I'm just thinking, filming in New York isn't cheap, but they have a lot of real extra. There's a lot of shots of them walking around those old stadiums. It's not 50,000 people, but they have those filled, and it's before you could just CGI crowds in. But it has a 7.3 on IMDb, same as Big. Rotten Tomatoes 80% fresh, so not nearly as overwhelming as Big.
People hate women.
People hate women. That's what it is.
That one scene.
They also hate black people. The Rotten Tomatoes is so anti-black movie, it's crazy.
Is it?
Maybe that's what brought it down. That one scene.
I'm saying.
the one black person in the movie
throwing the ball back in.
Let's go ahead and take these down a couple points.
But yes, obviously both big successes, popular, critically acclaimed, financially viable movies. I think the strength of Hanks and Gina Davis and
Madonna
having sex with teens. Yeah. No, that's not why. I think that's all for stats. Leonard, we've talked about these movies a lot. Do we have anything else we need to hit before we go into our final arguments?
Tom Hanks won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor for Big, which is wild.
He was nominated that was his first Oscar nomination.
Yeah,
which is crazy considering a movie like this was nominated for Best Actor.
I don't know if it was a great year for movies. We'll see.
Who was he up against?
I know exactly.
He was up against his childhood self.
He was up against his inner demons. Yeah, who was he up against?
Hold on, I'm not.
Yeah, look at the 1989 Oscars if you're looking, because it will be for the following year.
You said Golden Globe.
He said he won the Golden Globe, but he was nominated for the Oscar.
All right, so Dustin Hoffman won for Rain Man.
Sure. Okay, so these
honoring a lot of childlike performances that year.
Can I see the whole list, please?
Childlike performances. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman for Mississippi Burning, Tom Hanks for Big, Edward James Olmos for Stand and Deliver, and Max von Sydow for Pele Conqueror.
Yeah, see that it was a bad year for movies.
Exactly.
That's what I'm like. How did this movie make this much money?
But big year for Hanks. That's how Tommy touchdown. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know that A League of Their Own was nominated for anything necessarily. I'm checking really quick. Nobody say anything. 6 wins and 13 nominations, but I don't think any of these were major. Do we count the 2020 awards or the awards of the Japanese Academy?
Sure.
Or it was nominated for Golden Globe for Gina Davis was nominated, and also Madonna Best Song This used to be my playground. I don't recall that song in the movie.
That was in the credits. That was the song in the credits.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that song. I did like the actual members playing softball, but anyway.
Well, they were playing baseball, not softball, but
you're right. My mistake.
At the beginning of the movie, though, the woman, when the dairy farm is playing that other team, she's throwing the ball softball style.
She was underhanded?
Yep.
Yes. She was doing slow pitch, but I think they were playing softball in that scene.
Because that was before women's baseball.
I think the thing is women's baseball didn't exist. Like I think women were encouraged to play softball for a little bit and then to become homemakers. But yeah, I guess that's like they don't really talk about that distinction though in the movie, probably for a good reason.
Well, like it was like, hey, look at these women who are playing the women's sport where they belong, playing the women's sport, and then we're going to turn it around for them just for the duration of the war. And I think softball, there's no,
It is weird because it's clearly like a barnstorming, like the teams are probably pick up or something close to it where they're first playing. And then when they like have them selling tickets playing baseball, like the difference between a softball and a baseball is like a few centimeters of circumference, and the difference between underhand and overhand, like the idea that is what the men of the time could not get their heads around. It's like, no. You throw that underhand and you make the ball bigger. Otherwise it's a whole different sport. Same shit.
Doesn't the size of the field widen a bit too for baseball?
Probably. I don't know the particulars of softball, to be totally honest, but
all right, we've come to that time of the episode.
Yep.
Time of reckoning.
Yep.
Final arguments.
Yep.
Courtney, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Courtney, Leonard is going to tell you
sure
that Big is much more of a Tom Hanks movie. He is the sole star. The movie is much more on his shoulders. He's in more of it, and I can't disagree.
So we're just gonna talk. Never mind. I'm sorry, no.
But my movie does not feature statutory rape. So I feel
that's really important to me.
So I know that's a bugaboo of yours. So I feel you should pick mine. And also, if I get I just think it is. I think he's great in both. I'm not gonna be that upset whichever one you pick. But I prefer my Tom Hanks Jimmy Dugan style. I prefer him being more of a normal person and just being funnier and being a little bit meaner, but with a heart of gold. I don't think he gets to play that as much, and I think it's more fun. That's it.
I wouldn't say a heart of gold. I would say
found it.
A knee missing cartilage. That's what he is. He's a crotchety, old, annoying, you wish it wasn't there, but it is person. And he's just a mean person, spitting tobacco on people's feet, pissing and passed out.
He grows, Leonard. He grows.
He grows in Big too. So.
He grows in Big too.
Yes, but then he goes back.
Oh, you're right.
I knew Quinn was going to use these arguments against me, but listen. Tom Hanks was nominated for an Oscar for his performance in this movie. It is Tom Hanks. We don't see Tom Hanks, for like the first 10 minutes of this movie. And then you see him the entire movie. You don't see Tom for the first 30. He goes missing towards the end. You only see him for a good little bit. I just feel like it would be disrespectful to say that this is the best Tom Hanks movie when really it's a Gina Davis film. It's a Penny Marshall film. But I will say this. The writing may have not been the best, but you couldn't help but love Tom Hanks and laugh and have fun for the middle 45 minutes of Big. The middle 45 minutes of Big is great. Tom is doing his thing. He's really out here showing you his acting chops, and you can't help but to enjoy it. And you want to nominate and give him awards for his performance because it was so good. And
you just said it was a bad year for movies. I just want to throw that out. Throwing it out.
Yeah, true. But once again, comparably, it was good. So that's it. I'm done.
Well reasoned. Courtney, you can take as much or as little time. You can explain your choice, or you can just say the movie. The floor is yours.
Your choice.
Did I correctly deduce you writing notes? Or is that just putting together a grocery list for after this?
No, I was just doodling because that's what I do when I'm listening. But
good.
I was kind of I had some follow-up questions before I decide.
We'll allow it.
To make my decision. Okay. When I'm making my decision, am I basing it on the strict criteria?
It's your sole discretion. However you feel about the prompt, there is no rules or anything. Yeah, it's what you feel.
it's shockingly loose, Courtney. So you can choose if you feel like, oh, I don't want to just pick. You can choose who had the better argument in those criterion that we're talking about. You could award it based on box office if you want, but you don't have to.
You could award it by whatever.
You can avoid it by whichever movie doesn't have child sex.
That's such a good point. Okay, well, I'm just going to think out loud for a moment. In my opinion, Big is a Tom Hanks movie. A League of Their Own is not a Tom Hanks movie. He's fun in the movie that he's in, but I don't think of it as a Tom Hanks movie. In fact, I forgot he was in it until you recommended it on, for the podcast. So those are just where my lines of thinking go. So if I had to go with which is more of a Tom Hanks movie, I would say it's Big, because it is a Tom Hanks movie. And A League of Their Own, it's a League of Their Own. He doesn't matter. He's not the most important part, and he doesn't make or break the film, and his character dies. But if I'm going based on the fact that I'm allowed to play it fast and loose with any of the rules,
yes,
and my preference in terms of film, in terms of withstanding the test of time, holding up, I honestly think that There's No Crying in Baseball is the more recognizable quote than the dancing on the piano thing. Personally, I thought that I wrote down that there's a doggy in here, that A League of Their Own was the pop culture one over Big. I am going to go with League of Their Own for all.
Okay.
I am. And I also do really have a problem with child sex.
Good. Thank you for getting that on the record. We weren't clear.
Well, that's a rough season for me. 6-3 win for Quinn.
I think it's 7-2.
No, I won the first 3 episodes.
Here's the thing,
you won the first 2 episodes, Leonard. We'll go back and check the box score. I think it's 7-2
I honestly think if you two had switched movies that you were arguing for, I would have come up with the same thing. So it just you ended up with the short end of the stick in terms of you didn't get a Tom Hanks movie. I mean, wait.
No, I chose a Tom.
Contradicted myself. I chose the non-Tom Hanks movie over the Tom Hanks movie.
It's all good.
Well,
there are no rules here. So
and there's no crying in podcasting, Leonard. So just take it on the chin, put some dirt on it, throw some dirt in your mouth, get back on the field to play. You'll have another chance.
Drive the bus with your eyes closed.
It's okay, man. When you win 3 in a row, you become complacent.
You can have all the wheels can fall off.
Quinn needed this. Okay, I don't know if
I didn't need this one. I thought I might lose this one.
I meant this season. Quinn needed this season, and you know what? I'm happy for you, Quinn. I'm upset that I lost in the fashion and in such a large
public display.
No, I lost bad. Normally it's close. Normally it's like 5-4 or like 6-3.
I think it's been 5-4, but no.
I think honestly, Leonard, if you had chosen A League of Their Own as your movie, you would have won.
I never was going to choose it, so it wouldn't have happened.
Okay,
if I would have chosen maybe like
Leonard Hates Women.
I'm learning a lot.
I had not. I said
Catch Me If You Can. He's in. I feel like almost even less than he's in this.
I know.
Than A League of Their Own.
Yeah.
That's a Leo movie, baby.
I really would have wanted to choose like also Saving Private Ryan, but it's also like he's not. That's a lot of people in that movie too.
Yes.
So
yes, there's a lot of people in League of Their Own too.
That's why I went with Big, because he's like the most Tom Hanks centric movie that I like know and like. Besides,
the poster is just his face. Yeah. Leonard, you know the sting of this has gone better than I could have dreamed. This whole season, this episode in particular. You now know the sting of making the better choice on record and having what did Chris say, that I always make the better pick, but I have the worst argument, or for whatever reason I lose.
Well, this has happened to me 2 episodes in a row. Chris did the same thing last episode.
Yeah, but last time he did it just to fuck with me. This time it seems like you lost
just to spite me. Only to spite me
on Courtney's arbitrary,
so
but more than fair
laud
criteria.
About your 7-2 win, but just
and
know,
I will thank you.
Just know, it really should have been a 5-4. It really. I don't even want to talk about it. Never mind. There's a couple times. This is a very fluke season. A lot of your wins were flukes this season, but it's okay. Okay, well, let's see the Rachel Marsh episode. We're
gonna litigate that in the bonus episodes, Leonard. Okay,
we'll talk about it then.
We'll litigate it when it comes time. For now,
Courtney,
we are near the end.
Courtney, where can the people find you? You have anything to plug? Whatever you
like, location wise. Where are you?
Should I give them my address?
Yes, if you want to.
I do not want to.
It's okay. We'll put it in the Instagram post.
I don't really go on social media these days. I think it's
which is great. That's a great thing.
Haze.
Tell us where people can't find you then.
You can find me on Instagram. I won't respond. You can find me on Twitter. I'll favorite Quinn's tweets all at once in like every 6 months.
I appreciate that when it happens.
Not all of them, just the good ones. Yeah.
All right, cool.
You can find.
Well, this episode was trash, but I hope all you listeners had a good time. I had a.
We all have fun here. Courtney, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for closing out our 5th season, which is now officially dubbed with me, the victor. We do believe in the month of June. Happy Pride to all who celebrated, and happy whatever the month of July is. And until next time, we will see you at the ball game.
It's the cinema, Quinn.
Oh, sorry.